Some other questions here? Yeah.
I understand why they changed the rankings. Previously, they did these tiers for first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and people got really excited that this meant a lot. What happened about 2 years ago, several law schools were found to have cheated. What they did was they had a class of people come in, and they told the people with the 10 lowest LSAT scores to come in as part-time students in the fall. They would be made full-time students in the spring, but their scores wouldn't count toward the report. And someone apparently squealed on them, and they got their scores redone. Because in both cases, it moved them up a level.
Moved them up from
4 to 3, and so what they decided was, if we go to this other system, it reduces the pressure to say, oh, I'm for the fifth tier or something like that, or I'm first tier. The first tier, of course, schools are clear. There's not much ambiguity about them, regardless of whatever rating system you want to use. When you get below that, then it gets murky. Because a lot of law schools can be very, very good, but if they're not in the national circuit, they don't get the same kind of visibility. And that's an issue that they have to deal with. And what they're trying to do is work with it. Unfortunately, the pressure is a lot of good. Now, understand, as I said this before, of the 4,000 applicants a school may get, probably 3,000 to 3,500 of them can do the work. It's not that they can't, the people who get rejected can't do it. It's just for whatever reason, we found people we think would do fit better. And that's what makes it so hard. That's why people have to do multiple applications. Because schools are always looking for some perfect student, whatever that means for them. Socially active, blah, 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 great grades, all this kind of stuff. And also it helps the little ladies across the street and things like that.
Well, one thing I think a lot of people are maybe a little apprehensive or afraid. Oh God, can I do this? You're ready to do it. I mean, if you get into particularly if you get any of these 5 schools I mentioned here in Florida, you're ready to do it. It's something you can handle. What I would suggest that you do, though, and I think Dr. Handberg mentioned this, but let me just mention it again. If you're going to go somewhere for 3 years, you need to visit that place with your significant other. But you could go up, in fact, I think our Phi Alpha Delta, which has legal studies majors and political science majors, and it's a pre-law fraternity here at UCF, they've set up tours, and the law schools will be happy to have you come up. They'll introduce you to students that are there. Sit in a class or two and go up and see the physical plant where you're thinking about staying, whether you're going here in Florida or out of state. It'll be a little harder to do that, but if you're going to go there for 3 years, you want to find out as much as you possibly can and talk to some of the students, particularly some of the senior students. Are they getting jobs? The scuttlebutt will be around. You'll probably get more honest information from the students sometimes than you will with the law school trying to brag about how they placed everyone. That doesn't mean they've all been placed doing legal work, which is kind of the idea if you're going to go to law school for that time. But find out as much as you can, and you'll get probably better. It'll help you make the choice more intelligent. Yep.
You mentioned the pre-law committee. Does that have to be in law school?
Not really. It's probably okay to have that on because almost every law school has a law school chapter, Phi Alpha Delta. So it's one of those things like never hurts, and it shows you weren't just sitting around and never talking to anyone. You have some social ability, but it's not a big whoop. Where it helps though is you're going to network with all these other students that are also applying to law school, and you maybe get some information from other students that we haven't covered today that will help you. So simply the interaction with other students, they can probably tell you who's the best LSAT program, because it isn't the program, it's probably who's teaching it. And you'll get that information from the students that are that you know they're also preparing for law school, and that's why I think PAD's a good choice. Yes, sir?
Does going to one law school in one state dictate where you'll practice?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Where, if you go to a law school in a different state, will that dictate where you practice, and or will you be able to be prepared for like a Florida?
Well, it might take you a little bit longer. It depends. I think it's a little easier to take the bar exam in Florida if you graduate from law school in Florida, but they have bar exam review courses. And if somebody did go to Duke or Harvard, they come down, they're gonna have to take the Florida Bar Exam review course like anybody else that went here. But if you think you've already had the substantive courses, you're probably it's gonna be easier for you to do it. But it won't keep you from doing it. Sometimes people, if they do come here from other state, they may feel they need a little, to wait instead of taking it in July, they might have to take it in February. So it can delay you, but it doesn't officially delay you. You can take it with the same time everybody else is taking it.
My son, when he graduated moral school, practiced in Atlanta, and then moved down to work for the Florida Attorney General. He had to take the bar exam in Florida, so that was no big deal. They do prep courses regardless.
But he went to Yale, so he's going to pass the bar exam no matter where he goes. Harvard, I'm sorry. That's pretty good too, though, I think. Anyway.
But the reality is, anyone who takes the bar exam is going to take a prep course.
Yep.
If you don't, you're probably well, you may not sit in a classroom, but you can buy the books. That's what my son did for Georgia. He was still in Atlanta. That's not Atlanta, he was still up in Cambridge. And so what happened was he bought the books and then did them on his own, and then came down for the 2.5 days of the exam to Atlanta to take it.
I've kind of heard this before that you're better off going to like a lower ranked school and being at the top of your class than going to a higher ranked school and being in the lower part of your class. Like, what is your opinion on that?
I think it depends on the particular on what you're talking about. If you can get into one of those top 14 schools, I would go there because if you're last in the class at Yale, that's not so bad. It just. The school, I think, overall trumps that. But if you were picking, would you rather be first in the class, somewhere as opposed to maybe not in, I think it's hard to say because you don't know ahead of time. There's no way you can know how you're going to do. We were called FTU back then. And I had somebody from every single Ivy League school. My best friend was a guy who went to, I know how he got into Yale because his daddy owned the largest jewelry store in Miami. And he had a 3.6. He wasn't dumb, but he wasn't the smartest guy in the class. But I had somebody from every Dartmouth and Cornell and Princeton and every Ivy League school. I had somebody from the school, and I'm thinking, my God, I'm going to be lucky to just pass. And you never know. You don't have any idea of how well you're going to do. So I don't think you can even calculate per se.
Well, the difference is UCF students used to go with this kind of, we're from FTU or UCF, and we're not. Our students do actually do very, very well. We get accepted. The reason why we're struggling at UF Law School is because our students have a history of doing well. Even though when they started out, their LSAT scores tended not to be as good, but they had a very strong work ethic. And I've been doing this since 1973. And Gainesville has always been receptive to our students because our students perform. But they also, when I had the thing up about whole category, when we first started, that's where all our students ended up, but they all made it in. Except for one who got accepted to Harvard and turned it down to go to FSU.
Brilliant man. No, that was dumb.
No, that was he had family.
Yeah.
He was a veteran, so he figured that was the way he needed to do it. Yeah.
How extensively do they look at where you did your undergraduate in terms of evaluating your GPA? Just a 4.0 from UCF, balance out at 4.0 from Ivy League?
No, they don't do grade. They don't do those kinds of corrections because grade inflation. Oh, have you been reading the thing about Harvard?
What's that?
There's an academic scandal going on.
Oh yeah, that.
Which I found very interesting because this guy was the students were all outraged because they got caught cheating. Oh, this teacher gives us all A's. Harvard is notoriously grade inflated because the view is you're so good when you got in, so obviously you're great.
92%, 92.4 get A's and B's, I think, is their so.
Our students who leave, about 10% of the students leave entering class. Let's say there's 100, and so you get 10 and leave. 9 of those 10 leave because of the things we talked about, your family, other kinds of issues. A student, when I first got here, who got accepted and who went off to, I don't know which law school it was now. It wasn't Florida State, but he went off to law school, and he should have done pretty well. When he got there, couldn't stand away from his mommy. He came back. He didn't flunk out. Another guy who was, and this is to speak to the question if you have a record, guy who was, had been through drug rehab. He got accepted, he went off to law school, and after the first semester said, I don't like lawyers. So he left. You know, and he went to one of the two states, big state schools. So, you know, people leave law school, but they now accept people, everyone they expect, they assume will graduate. Whether they do or not, up to other sorts.
Just, and I know this goes without saying, but whatever you do, don't go to law school because somebody else wants you to. You're the one that has to do it. I don't care what your parents are dreaming for you. If this isn't your decision, it's a bad decision to make. It better be yours for sure. Yes, ma'am.
What do you think about transferring? Like if you, let's say you got into FIU and then you're like, man, I really wanted to go to UF.
It's really hard to do. I think Dr. Handberg's better at answering that. You can't automatically do that. You generally have to be in the top 10% of your class at the place where you are, and then the school has to accept you. Maybe you want to.
Well, the problem, there's two problems. One, it is possible to transfer, but they are not very, they don't really encourage it. And part of the reason is, if you come in, you're coming in your second year more or less, probably a mixture of first and second year, so you don't really fit in anymore in the classes. So your schedule's gonna be a little screwed. But more importantly, the first year, if you're doing really, really well to get the ability to transfer, you're gonna get opportunities at the law school you went to be in a law review, do a whole variety of other things. These are big honors. These are things that make a difference in terms of job placement, everything like that. And now you're gonna go to Gainesville, and you're gonna be one of the people, you know,
Nobody knows.
who the hell is she? I mean, I don't want to be ugly about it, but I mean, that law schools, in that sense, within the class, gets very incestuous, because you're with these people for a year.
Particularly the
And now
first
we add in the second person.
Your boot camp analogy is perfect because they're the ones you went through boot camp with. So, I mean, what you're saying is it just all kind of, it doesn't mean you can't do it. I mean, you can't. One of my better friends went to Stetson for a year and then came up to FSU and, did fine and everything. But it's the exception, not the rule.
I always told
you can't count on being the top 10% in your class. Can't count on that.
I always tell students, go where you think you're going to stay. Don't go to practice, transfer. You may transfer, it may work out. So if you go there with that in mind, you never make the connection. You need law school. So what if you don't do well? Now you're stuck in a law school and nobody really knows you or really cares about you because you were always on your way out. And that there's a human reaction to that. People saying, oh, you're saying we're not good enough for you, huh? And now you're stuck here for 2 more years. Finish up. Boy, you're a real loyal alumnus.
A lot of times it's money, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We'll go from there.
If you